Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a video on growing up in a musical family. From my past videos, I have always said that I grew up in a musical family. I grew up, my parents are teachers. We had, they had a band, they had this, they had that. Everything to do with music, right? So let's get started right after this intro. For as long as I can remember, our family was musical. When we were small, we actually did not start off with music because my parents used to do other small jobs for money. When they really started getting into music, because my father was already a musician already, and my mom, I think it was my dad that taught her like the keyboard and taught her proper vocals and all of that. She could already sing, but he taught her like vocals and stuff. Obviously, when all of this is going on, me and my two brothers were always around. Although we used to be playing in the yard or whatever, we were always around and we would always hear these songs. And because of this, when we were small, my brother actually made like took a wood, a flat piece of board, and he actually carved out like, cut out like a guitar shaped thing. It was probably small like this, and he cut out this guitar and started putting strings on it and all of that. And we would all play like if we are playing on it like a song or whatever, and then we would have like different little buckets or whatever to beat drums. And I remember when we were small, we actually we actually started, I think this was when my other brother was born. We actually, so then it was four of us. So when we did all this, we actually started like playing, like if we are in a band, we would play and sing for our family. When people come over, they would tell us to play a song or whatever, and we would do that. I would sing, and so my brothers would play like if they're playing guitar, and there would be drums and whatever else. And around this time as well, my parents actually had a band with a couple of their friends, and I actually don't want to put the name of the band here. I actually remember it, but I don't think I should put the name of it here, just for privacy along that way. Anyway, I actually remember some of the persons that was in the band. Some of them are still living life and enjoying life, and some of them unfortunately died. So eventually my parents would do their normal day job, and they would actually like book gigs and go out and play in different places. Obviously, when they went to do this, they would leave us with family members. Sometimes we would be dropped off by our grandmom. Sometimes they would carry us by family members, and even sometimes when they can't carry us, they would call over some of our uncles and aunts to come and watch us while they are doing these things, making extra money. So eventually it kept moving on and on like this, and then eventually my dad actually started teaching guitar to like different families. I would say back in that time, that was when Ranchback was actually one of the rich areas, and all we had to do was literally walk straight out of our street, and not the street that our house was, but the actual road going out to the main road. We would have to walk out to the main road and all we had to do was cross that street and go through a little track, and we would reach in that Ranchback area, the rich what we call the rich community at that time. That was one of the rich community. So right now they closed it up because people kept going over there to rob. Anyway, so my dad would walk out the road and go to this rich person's house and teach them guitar, classical, actual songs, whatever you might call it. And then eventually he started to teach my mom because I can't remember what my mom was doing. I think my mom was at home giving us like homeschooling at the time. So around that time, my dad would teach my mom how to play guitar as well as keyboard. So since he was teaching guitar, he was teaching my mom so that she could be able to go and teach keyboard. And also around this time, my dad was actually taking lessons from, you would take lessons from someone that is academically inclined in those subjects. So I think one of his teachers was from London, and I can't remember where the other one was from, but they were really great. I actually went with him to some of his classes, and this person could have really teach. They had their own book published. They would teach from this book, and it was really great. And obviously some of the pieces in that book was from other persons, but a lot of the pieces in his teacher's book was written by his teacher. So that was actually great, and I actually loved going to his classes because you can see like the professionalism when it comes to music, because he was actually learning how to read music properly, learning or every single thing. They would do exams and everything. And when I say exams, I'm talking about like the official exams from London, Trinity Guildhall. After this now, obviously we were at home, we were little kids. Obviously we would sing and listen to music. Actually, we didn't really have much thing to listen to music on. The only thing we had was like probably a little radio, and we had like a black and white TV at that time, a small little black and white TV. So around this time we were small, we would just sing and whatever else. And when my mom actually started joining my father to teach music, we would be at home, and around this time we were of age to actually stay home by ourselves, because around this time it started to be my mom and dad started teaching music regularly now, and also some of the students actually started coming home to our home now. So obviously we had less privacy, less everything, so we had to actually, when we came home, we had to just take our books. Sometimes we would remain in our rooms because how our house was made up. It was the front door is there, you come in, and that area is the living room. It just had like a little cabinet or something blocking off the living room from the kitchen. And then when you walk through the middle there, it had like a little thing with a wash, toilet and bath, and then 2 rooms to the each side. So that was how our house was made up, and they would bring home their students. Their students would come home to our home, and they would teach them right there. Sometimes they would go outside. Sometimes my dad and his students would go outside because you can move about the guitars and whatever. And then my mom would teach inside in the living room. It actually turned out really great, and yeah, so, and while they were doing that, we would obviously be in school, and we would come home and we would go and do our homework, whether it be a lot of homework. We would do our homework, and then by the time we finish our homework, we would eat our lunch, and probably go outside and play while they are teaching their students. And then eventually they started to teach us this music. And one thing I would say, when I started learning music, I really felt like it would help me in my schoolwork. I don't know if you know this, but when students come to the school, like some of them would be struggling in certain subjects and different things like that, and then when they go through the cycle of learning music, embracing music, whatever, it would actually open, I don't know how to explain it, it would somehow open up your mind to bigger possibilities. It will open up your mind to understand more, understand your subjects more, do way better in school. I don't know how it is, but that is how it is. And so my mom actually taught me and one of my brother keyboard. At this time, my younger brother and my younger sister was actually way younger, so they didn't really like learn anything at that age. But me and my two older brothers would learn. I would say all of us learned theory from my mom. I learning to read music, learning to write it, learning everything about it, like grade one Trinity Guildhall. So we would learn all the theories, and then my mom would taught me and my brother keyboard, and then my other brother was taught guitar. So that's what we were taught, and yeah, we just rolled with the flow. After that, I felt like everything was starting to progress and get bigger and bigger. As in, my parents started a actual school. They named it a certain name, and they started a musical school then, where they would teach guitar, they would teach keyboard. Obviously, most of the time when you know guitar, sometimes you would know bass, so they taught keyboard. When you teach keyboard, you can teach piano as well. So they taught both of those. They taught, and plus when you're doing piano, when you're doing exam, you have to be able to play piano. So, because you don't play keyboard for the exam. Obviously it have keyboard exams, but most of the time you would have to actually do the exam with the piano itself. So they taught piano, keyboard, guitar, quattro, bass. They actually registered the school name and they started the school. So students actually started coming, and they would actually use my father teacher's book to teach the students, because that's the only book they knew at the time. And my mom actually used, I can't remember the name of the keyboard book, but she used a keyboard book to teach her students. So it was two different books, and yeah. So normally my mom would teach like plenty of the little children coming up to adults, and then my dad would teach from like probably 7 years for the youngest going up to adult. So yeah, so that turned out great. And around this time now, my dad and my mom actually joined a band which is called a parang band. So as you know, Trinidad have something called parang. Parang is actually a traditional music, I would say. If you look up Daisy Force and these people, you would see what I'm talking about. This is actually a traditional music in Trinidad, where you would form a band with a whole lot of different instruments, with people singing, women and men singing in front, and they would sing a lot of songs these songs would mostly be in Spanish, Latin. I don't know if Latin is separate from Spanish, but Spanish, Latin, so on and so on. So it actually isn't in English. So, but these songs are actually about the resurrection of Christ, the death of Christ. It was mostly about that and other things to do with Christ and stuff like that, and God and stuff. So it was more of a religious kind of thing back then. Parang started to change a little. It have different categories right now. So it have, I think I will get the different levels of it and put it right here for you guys so you can see. They joined this band and it was just two of them. So obviously we were old enough to stay by ourselves. So it was five of us. It was my older brothers, then me, then my younger brother, my younger sister. So it was five of us. We would stay home by ourselves. We would watch TV. And obviously they would say, take off the TV by this time, or you guys should be sleeping by this time, and so on and so on. But sometimes, obviously, children is children, and we would stay up, and then when we see our parents coming home from Parang or whatever, usually Parang actually, sometimes it actually finishes extremely late in the night. I wouldn't even say night, I would say morning. Sometimes it finishes in the morning, and obviously when it's morning we would be sleeping already in our beds. We don't know when our parents come and all of that. But whenever it lasts till probably midnight for the latest, and we would actually be watching TV. We would have the volume low, watching TV, and then we would actually have like a lookout, because when it's that late you would actually hear the car coming in, and they would come in and we would take off the TV fast, everybody close up and run in bed, and when they come in we would play that we are sleeping and whatever else. After they joined the band now, my dad started to put together another band with if you don't know, it have this comedian named Eula, but we would call her Miss Shirley or Miss King, Miss Shirley. I remember calling her Miss Shirley. So her actual name was Shirley King, and she was in a band with our parents and her family members and so on and so on. So sometimes when they have like shows, we would go with them. So the first person from our family was one of my older brother. He actually had to play bass, so my father taught him bass to play in the band, because I can't remember if the bass player left or what was happening, but something was happening. So my brother started to play bass, and then eventually some of the band members started leaving. Obviously, since my father was starting to teach all of us like different instruments and different things like that, we started to join a band. But my two older brothers joined the band first. So it was one started playing bass and one started playing quattro. So if you don't know what quattro is, I will put a picture up here for you to see. After they have been going with the band to play and everything, obviously they were getting paid, because when these bands go out, you actually get paid for it when you're doing these jobs, because it is, people think being a musician is just like, you're a musician, you don't get paid much, you don't do this. But being a musician is pretty hectic, because most of the week you have to practice. You have to, when you go out to shows, most of the time the shows, it starts from like probably 6, 7 or 5 o'clock for the earliest, and then you would play, and then you would come home late, and then you barely get any sleep, and then sometimes you have to go back out for another show, and so on. That is how it was. And well, it wasn't like that for the first set of the times, because obviously some of the parang bands would be booked in bars. So whenever we are booked in they were booked in bars, they really couldn't play much. And then sometimes they would just go in, play, because obviously my brothers were underage at the time, and they would go in, play, and then they would, for the break time, they would have to be outside until it is time to play again. So that is how that part was. And sometimes me and my smaller siblings would go with them, sometimes we would stay home, but it was great. And eventually, I think 2 years passed, and then I had to join the band because I was on percussion. People actually don't think percussion or timing or whatever is important, but when you're in a band, you must have like something. Everybody must be in sync, everybody must follow timing and everything. And the good thing about it is I already knew most of the music. I already knew most of the choruses to sing for the song. So I was an slight asset because they really needed like singers to sing backup. So I joined the band that time, and I was ecstatic because I was actually, where was I? So when my brothers joined, they were in primary school, and when I joined, I just started high school. I just started secondary school, high school. So it actually worked out great for me because I actually made some extra money, and I got to buy what I needed. I got to buy what I want, and yeah. So eventually, we moved on and we moved on, and I would say it was fun for a while, and eventually we got this big deal with extra foods to play for them, and it was multiple shows back to back. Most of the time these shows But most of the time these shows was in December. Those shows actually worked out good for us because we were in school, so we couldn't really leave school for every single show because some of those shows was daytime. So it was good that these shows was actually around the time when we didn't have school. So eventually things keep going and going, and all of a sudden our drummer left the band, and next time we saw our drummer, he went into another band. But my father didn't stop there. My father actually taught my little brother. My little brother was small, and he was in primary school at the time, but I don't know, for some reason our family was just full of music, and my dad taught my little brother more things on the drum, how to play this, how to play that. And just by listening, my brother already knew some of the beats as well. So he came into the band after that. So by now, 4 of us was in the band already. And when he joined the band and we went out, at that time we only had like one of those long drums with deep that was deep in depth and everything. But he played it so good that when we went out for our first show, I can't remember which park this was. I can't remember if it was in Maracas or if it was in Lopino or Arima. We went one of those places, and when he went and played, that was the first time when we saw the drummer that leave our band all of a sudden in another band. So we came out. It was actually a small amount of us, and we actually went out there and we performed our lives out, and everybody came up and was like praising our band, praising how good my brother was beating drum for being so young and everything like that. So we actually did great, and we kept going and going, and eventually people started to call us the small band with the big sound. And it was actually great because that that was what they call us, because it was starting to get, our band was actually starting to get really small, and sometimes we would just have like one or two outsiders, but it would mostly be family members in the band. And yeah, so it turned out to be great. And then moving on and moving on, we started to get more busy and more busy. We actually started to play music from September. Actually, we started to play music from September straight down till Christmas Eve. Sometimes we would even have a show like Boxing Day, sometimes even New Year's. So that was, I mean, not New Year's, Old Year's into New Year's. So that was actually really busy. So normally we will have shows with the Parang Association. So the Parang Association is an association that book different venues. They put on shows and bring in revenue, and you will have to sign up to the Parang Association to be able to get shows. So we were signed up to the Parang Association to get shows, plus we were doing other private shows as well. So depending, sometimes we would have 2 or 3 shows, even sometimes 4 shows in one day, and it was really booked. Sometimes our days were really booked and we were really tired, but we pushed through it and brought in the money and brought in everything. So obviously when you're doing this, you would use some of the money to buy better equipments, better musical equipments. So, and along with this, my parents actually had a music school. So sometimes Friday we would have to go and help my parents teach music. Sometimes I would have to help my mom teach some of the smaller students keyboard and the notes and how to read and all of these things. And then sometimes all of us would actually go with our parents on Saturdays. Saturdays was actually fun because we actually got to go out and mingle and see other persons and talk to people, and at that time the school was in Chaguanas, and we would actually get to walk about Chaguanas, go down early, walk about Chaguanas, do whatever. Sometimes we would eat out and just enjoy life, and it was really fun. And then eventually the band was getting bigger, the school was getting bigger, so they actually started to get like more branches. Like one was Chaguanas, and next branch was El Dorado, and next branch was Arima, and then the last branch was San Fernando. So the school was getting really big, and obviously since they opened up different branches, because at first they just used to teach like on Saturdays and Sundays, and that on Fridays and Saturdays, and that was it. But since they had all of the other days free, they opened up other branches, and they moved like different days for different branches. So it turned out really great, and a lot of times we as their children, obviously we knew most of the music and everything, so we had to go and help teach some of the smaller students as well, because at times it would be so overwhelming for our parents that it was too much for them alone to handle. So they would bring in like me, sometimes at this time my sister was actually old enough, and she would actually help with, I would actually help with with the classical music, and my sister would would help with the uh what do you call those classical with the chords. So the chords have to do with like, the chorus is just like if you want to play this song, it have different chords and how much beats you have to play it for and all of these things. So she would teach the chord, help teach the chords. I would help teach the classical part because I was more better in teaching the classical and she was better in teaching the chords part. So it would actually help my mom out a lot because a lot of students and a lot of parents were pushing for their children to do a lot more exams, and those exams were really great because when you do these exams you get into university easier. A lot more universities want you, and plus you can actually go abroad with these exams, with these results, and you can actually get into universities in London. Where were the other? I would say a lot of my parents' students actually went to university out of the country. A lot of them went to big places, and I don't know where they are now, but a lot of them made it really big in life. And yeah, and a lot of them would come back and say like for example, their parents, they would say, they would bring their child, most of the time their child is struggling in school academically, and when they brought their child it was so much of a struggle, and then after, when their child started to excel in music, they started to excel in every single thing that they do afterwards academically, and even everything else, because it opens up your mind, and it's really great. So they saw big changes in their children. Yeah, so we would help teach, and along with teaching we would have our school work to do, which is why I love my parents so much, because my mom would always say, you shall just do the best you can. I know you can. I know you will do the best you can. So just study what you can and do what you can. And then my dad wasn't really into too much academics. He was more into like different trades and different things, because it was actually the best of both worlds, because we would actually learn academics, and we would actually be pushed to learn like trades and different things. So music actually helped us to open up our minds and do better in these things school wise. Along with all of these things, every year my parents' school would have like a concert at the end of the year, so that the students would play or showcase what they have learned throughout the whole year for the schooling, how much better they got. Oh, excuse me, how much better they got and everything like that. So everyone used to actually look forward to this time, because they would show off what they learned, they would dress up nice, they would get certificates from the exams from London, they would get trophies to show how great they did, so teachers would appreciate to show how great they did in practicing and learning and everything. What I went through personally when all of this was happening, I would say our parents had less time for us because they were so busy. You know how some people would feel invisible sometimes among other people? So, to tell you the truth, me being a middle child, I am the middle child of the family. So it's five of us, I'm the middle child. So for some reason, as a middle child, I felt like got less attention. I don't know if it's because I was more responsible than the rest of them, or my parents saw me as being more responsible as than the rest of them. But I felt like invisible sometimes, and I don't know, for some reason I just wanted to hang out with my family like how it was when before all of this chaos started to happen. And I didn't really judge anyone for it, because I know this is their job, this is what they do to bring food on the table, this is what they do to build our future, to be able to give us things in the future, and so on and so on. In other words, pass on things to us. So I didn't really make it a big deal. I just stayed I just went on my own, and when I say went on my own, just stayed on my own and just enjoyed and whatever else. After that, I started to get really annoyed because we didn't have a marac player. I will put up what a marac is right now, and we actually didn't have a marac player, so I had to like hold two maracs in my hand, beat it on my hand. But obviously that's not how a marac is played. So I would be so ashamed to go up on stage to play this marac by beating it on my hand, when that is not how you play marac. So I was so annoyed, and that happened for a couple of shows until we finally got a marac player, and two other persons started to come to the band. We got a flute player, we got a trumpet player, we got a marac player, all of these things. So it was turned out really great, and I didn't have to. And then the marac player, because he is a percussionist, he actually beats drum as well. So he taught me how to do different beats on the tuk tuk. I will show you what a tuk tuk is right here. Different beats on the tuk tuk. And the tuk tuk is important because it have to keep the timing of the whole band, because if it is this tuk tuk, if it is you're beating the tuk tuk and you're going slow, then the whole band will drop down and go slow. If it is you're beating fast, then the whole band will jump up and start to play fast. If it is you're going medium, then they will go medium. So this is very important pertaining to the timing. So we came to the show. This show, it looked like so much people in the crowd that I was so frightened, I was so nervous. And around this time was when I had learned some songs, and my father was like, Rachel, you'll be singing Tengo en Corazón. I was so scared that was the first time I was going to perform it. Actually, no, I wouldn't say perform it. I would say that was the first time I was going to perform it without being able to read the song, the lyrics. So some places you would be able to put the lyrics in front of you, some places you can't. So this place, I couldn't put up the lyrics because obviously it was a big crowd. It was so much lights. As you know, being a musician, you will know that when there's plenty lights, you could barely see the audience. And this actually messes with your sight. This actually messes with your sight to be able to see or read or anything. So I had to actually go by my memory. So when I found out that I had to sing that song, I was so nervous. I think I will put up a picture of that time here. I will not look nervous in a picture, but that day I was a nervous wreck on the inside, and I was so frightened. And it turned out that that day was actually the best I have performed since I don't know when. That was actually the best I've performed since I started. And I was a nervous wreck. I went on, I sang the song, everybody loved it. Oh my gosh, it was great. So then we came off stage, everybody loved the song, people started coming up to see to me and say, oh, you sound so good, and this and that and the other. So I think it's after that performance is when other bands started actually learning the song to be able to sing it as well. So yeah, and I actually loved it. So moving on from this day, my sister actually started to play the marac. The only problem was she couldn't play like for the fast songs and everything, because she had to play, stop, and, or should I say shake, stop. And I was actually glad that she started to play the marac, because I didn't want to go back and play the marac, because at this time the marac man had other obligations to do, and he couldn't come to every single show. So my sister had to take over to play for the marac man. And also, I remember when I was in secondary school, the band at that time needed a marac player, and I can't remember what happened or how this boy knew that our band needed a marac player or whatever. Oh, I think it was because we were doing school parang, and sometimes my parents would come in and help with different things, and sometimes so on and so on. And I think this boy was in my class. He actually transferred from another school to my school, and he was in my class. And when parent time come, so it has school parent, and this was another thing added onto everything. So it has school parent, and school parent was actually secondary school against secondary school, singing parang and instruments and everything. And then it had primary school parang as well. So I was in secondary school at this time, and this parang was, I think he joined the parang band to play the marac. Yeah, to shake the marac, and that's when we knew that he knew how to shake the marac. And then some of the times, I can't remember if my mom came in or my dad came in or somebody came in, and it looked like they got to talking, and he found out that our band needed a marac player. And sometime I came to school and he came up, he gave me his number for my dad to call him. And the very next practice, actually I think it's that very same day, I went home and tell them about it, and I gave them the number, and they called him to come to practice the very weekend. So every single weekend we would have practice, which was very tiring, because we as children growing up, as teenagers, we actually wanted to get some time for ourselves to be able to go online, go and do things, but we couldn't, because we had to practice to be able to sound good and go out there and play these parent songs. So turned out annoying, but yeah, so he ended up in the band, and I was like, at least somebody from my class or somebody from my school was in the band. It was kind of weird at first, but it was alright. And yeah, I would say I started to get really frustrated on going to these shows over and over and over because I started to get really tired. And if you don't know, when you're beating the tuk tuk, it actually like rubs against your skin, and it creates a, obviously if something is rubbing against the same place over and over, it creates a bruise. So eventually you get a bruise and it hurts so bad. And imagine you have to, I would literally have to like put tape around those areas so that it wouldn't continue to blister, and then when it healed, I had to put tape in those areas so it wouldn't blister again, and all of these things. So, and even the bass player had to put tape on his hand. Even the drummer had to put tape on his hand. Oh my gosh, it was so bad because we had so much shows. We started to get so much shows back to back to back to back. And then coming down closer to Christmas, we started to get shows every day until Christmas Eve. So that was a whole other thing on its own. And let me tell you how it was. Let me tell you guys how it was. So basically, we would wake up like, let me tell you the busiest day. We would wake up probably 5 in the morning. We would get ready. We would go to the first show. And also from the night before, sometimes if we had like a show the day before, we would leave most of the instruments in the car, because only things that couldn't take heat, we would take it out, but most of the instruments would stay in the car. Then we would get ready around 5. We would go to the show around, like if it is we are going to a show like really far, like Erin or Cedras or one of those far places, we would get ready about, sometime we would have the show around 9-10, so we get ready about 5 probably and head up there one time. The good thing about us making our own money is that we had our own bus, we had our own transport, we had our own instruments, so we didn't have to borrow anything or rent anything. So that was actually an asset to us. And we would go to the show, do the show, then go to another show. And sometimes we would actually have to like carry different uniforms to be able to change into these uniforms to be able to do these other shows, because we couldn't do every single show in the same thing. And then after this other show, we would go to a next show and then the next show. I think the most show we did in one day would be, what, 5 shows? And this was only possible because our band actually had like a certain amount of sessions. So a certain amount of sessions would actually cost a certain amount. So we actually had 3 sessions. You can pay for 1 session, you can pay for 2 sessions, or you can pay for 3 sessions, depending on what you want. Some people would want 1 session. That is why I think we were able to do like 5 shows in one day, because some of the sessions was just 1 session, some of the sessions were 2, and then some of the sessions were 3 sessions. So, and then some of the shows you would actually just go, you would kind of like the Pang Association shows, you would just go, you would do like 3 or 4 songs, and then you would come off the stage. I actually love those shows because it finished fast. You do the songs fast. You don't have to go with a whole set of your own equipment and all of these things. So that would finish fast. You would get paid and you would head out. And yeah, so we would do multiple shows on end, and then when most of the time we would actually have to eat out, or sometimes we would even like prepare food home and then bring a whole pot of food while we are going to all of these shows, because sometimes, most of the times, we can't even go home. We don't even have time to go home to be able to come back out. So we will be there. We will be out whole day every day sometimes, and then sometimes we'll have to buy food. So I would say the good thing about being out is that sometimes you would want to buy something or something. So you would go to this place, buy it, and then come back during break. And yeah, it was so hectic. We didn't even have time to like go from home and go and buy things and come back home. And then sometimes when the season ends and we finally get paid, so we used to actually like build up our money. We then used to take our money as the show finished. We used to build up our money so that when the end of the season reached, we would get our whole stash of money so that we can see about what we need to see about, or see about what we have to see about. And obviously each member have to keep track of each shows, and everybody knew how much they will be getting paid for each shows. So everybody had to write down each show, write down how much they are getting paid for that show, and at the end you would tally it up, you would carry it, and you would get that amount of money. So it actually turned out really great. I would say a lot of persons that pass through our band actually love the payment, because most persons, because once you go to every single show, you would love the payment, like, trust me. And some persons actually cried, some persons were actually shocked when they watched in the envelope and saw how much they were getting. It was just marvelous. And I actually saw music as a great tool, and plus some people on the outside would watch our family and think music don't pay much, music don't do this and that and over. And then when they would hear how much we would be getting paid, then they would be like, oh wow, oh wow, oh wow. And then they would think, you know what, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this in music. So it actually pays. And people actually think it don't pay, but it pays. And people actually think by just going and being doctor, lawyer, I think that a lot of people perceive these things as being big jobs or big paying jobs or whatever, but you can build a music industry and make a lot of money. You just have to think business wise and all of these things. And talking about business wise, out of this, we actually started a recording studio as well. So we would actually get like clients from different places coming in to like cut a CD, cut a disc, whatever, start up their own music career, record their music. Obviously, if they are bringing their own people to play their music or whatever, they would pay less. And then if it is we have to put in the music for them, they would pay more. So that actually turned out great. Oh, and I also forgot a time way back when we were small. So where we were living in our first house, we were living in Chrissy Terrace Enterprise, and I don't know if you guys know this, but Blazer, this I will put up a picture of him here. Blazer, his real name was Troy, and he and his family actually used to live like, you would go through the back street of our house and go down, and you would actually go through a street, and you would reach their house right there. And he actually turned out a big music star. He he died now, but he actually turned out a big music star, and up to now his music is playing right now in Trinidad. So I remember he used to come over by us, and my dad and my mom used to, my dad used to like play the music for him for his song. And at that time the song, it was his first hit, and that time the song was I think I might play a clip here, I don't know. I will show you a clip, maybe you'll know by seeing the person or something.
Get a phone call, say she calling me from New York, and she want me pick she up in at the airport. Say she will be reaching in a few hours. She am my baby girl, so me no dig no horrors. Well, pretty soon I will be picking you up. In the meantime, love for a girl we so much. To one we in at the bathroom, well love up. Upon me door me hear knock, 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 oh. When me look, me see the door open wide. It's my girlfriend who step inside, thinking she calling from New York all the while, but was a telephone call from outside. Good look at wrong timing, telling people I don't care about you, girl. Wrong timing. If it stay with your mother, would not catch me with two. Wrong timing. At the belly to tell people, girl, that I don't love you. Lies wrong timing. Whoa, me sing say a Christian and a Rasta man talking about a issue, say that Christ coming. The Rasta say if Christ coming at the morning, I cut my natty and I'll start praising. What if we look to the rising of the sun, and Selassie I decide to come on the house for the Rasta children. Say I have Rasta, you don't have none, you got wrong timing. It's not where you're from, but it's where you are going. Wrong timing.
But he actually used to come by us to record and cut the tape and get music to his song and fix whatever need to be fixed and all of these things. And then he ended up making it big. So I don't know, guys, you never know. You can come and you can record your song, you can put it out there, and you can actually become big. And at that time, I would say growing up, the radio station actually used to make it really hard for new musicians to actually make it big, because they just used to want to push like Baron, Scranta, all the old time people, and the youths were actually growing out of that timing because they actually wanted to bring out their own style, their own type of music. You know how it does be. Youths, when they're growing up, they're going to different type of music, they like different type of music, but some of them, I would say, do like the old music, but some of them like to expand and move on and do new things as well. So best of both worlds. Anyway, yeah, so moving on from that, back to further down the line. Yeah, so everything was starting to get really busy and this and that. So eventually everybody ended up working and different things. Everybody started to get older, and we all loved like being part of the band and everything, but I would say we were all getting tired because as children, I would say I wanted to start to branch out and not really go on my own, but branch out and in starting a family, being with someone that I love, and I don't know, meeting my husband, moving on, you know. That was my story growing up in a musical family. It was pretty hectic I don't know if other persons grew up like this, but it was hectic, it was tiring, it was great at the same time. It was everything together emotionally. And yeah, so anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to be able to see the other videos that I bring out. See you guys. Bye. Peace.